the chat, so I'm sure it's fantastic.
Hello and welcome to the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream here on twitch.tv/DDO stream, youtube.com/Dungeons and Dragons/live, and facebook.com/DDO Unlimited. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be having a really fun show today, and if time permits, we'll probably even bum around a little bit on the server.
Not Thelanis.
No, I think it is Thelanis, actually.
You were in Thelanis like 2 weeks ago.
Was I? I say that's why I can't remember if I'm on Wayfinder or if it's week 2 of Thelanis. I think it's week 2 of Thelanis for some reason. Wayfinder. The chat tells me that is great. I've got a high-level character on Wayfinder.
I trust
no
Wayfinder. I trust the Twitch chat more than I trust your memory at this point. That's
it's probably a fair assumption. It's been busy. Okay, there's a thread on the DDO forums called The Endgame, Raid Loot, and Tomes. I tell you, this is sure to have great SEO.
I specifically,
yeah.
Well, I was going to title it just butts or like farts or something, you know what I mean? And then just make, because the only person I think who could change thread titles is you. And the plan was to wait until you were doing something else, like on a live stream, and that would just, just ruin everything. But
well, you always ruin everything.
Yeah, that's debatable.
No. Actually, this would be a good thing.
So raid for 6 months.
So basically, the main goals are to make you hate raids more and get trash loot.
Yes.
No, the opposite of that. It's actually true.
The goal is right after I'm done nerfing bards and just we're gonna turn the entire thing off. No more bards. Also, I can't even say what I'm doing out loud, but. Never mind. That joke didn't go anywhere.
So anyway, there is a new forum thread, and we're going to put that up on the screen, and we're going to go through it a little bit here. But the general idea is we're trying to address some of the long-standing issues with raid loot. When we redid the random loot gen system several years ago, now, it meant that some of the raid loot numbers perhaps didn't quite hold the appeal that they used to. We did kind of more consistently scale up loot, because keep in mind all this old raid loot, a lot of it was created under an entirely different itemization system than we have in place today. And one of the long-term projects that we've been wanting to do is get to that. However, fix raid loot on a sprint board tends to be something you would look at and go, oh my god, no, we can't do that. Are you freaking kidding me? But at the same time, we are doing that. And you have come up with a plan along with the rest of the DDO team here. This is a team effort to talk a little bit about what we're going to do today and make raids more relevant to more people with better loot.
Yeah.
So the reason, clearly, if I thought this was going to be a bad thing, I would not be hyping it up like this. But it's going to be quite awesome. So I think you're going to enjoy
hype up everything,
your time today.
Regardless of whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. I am always hype. It's a challenge. Go to the dentist, excited. I'm always ready. Sitting in traffic, I'm always ready.
I approve. Okay, so, however, we want to get started here talking a little bit about the too long didn't read version. I've been talking long enough. Lynnabel, what is the too long didn't read?
All right, well, we did a TLDR, but the TLDR was still too long, so we had to do two, because this is a really long post it has some graphs, it's got some paragraphs, it's got a lot of weird numbers, so we shortened it, and then we shortened it again. But the double TLDR is that we're splitting up the raids available at cap, of which there are 11, by the way. There are 11 raids. We're splitting them up into 3 distinct tiers. And then the actual longer TLDR is we're splitting up into tiers. We're changing which tomes drop where. We're bringing all the tome drop raids up to Ravenloft's level. We're dropping the Racial Action Point tome and Killing Time, the Curse of Strahd, and Babalo Saga. So, it's pretty good. Speaking from experience, it's pretty good.
It won't stack with the tome that you might already have.
Yeah, it's the same. Just like tomes +1 won't stack with +1. If you've already got +1, you've already got it. But
the main point is we're really bringing into a consistent system that meshes with our current itemization system. All the end-game raids. So if you have been in a place like, hey man, I love that raid, but I've got the stuff / just don't really have a reason to run it today, you may well find yourself the reason pretty soon.
Yeah, well, that's one of the main challenges about designing itemization, and that's the majority of my job at this point. Like, we've kind of, myself and the rest of the systems, we split off into, like, switch content systems and then, like, more class balance, and I ended up with itemization, is that whether or not an item is good at cap, it still occupies design space. So, like, if, say, for example, like the cool gloves, sanctified gauges that drop out of Mark of Death, like, in theory, they're awesome. Like, you punch people, you got smites, you know what I mean? You got light resistance, like, that is rad. But it's not that good anymore compared to other stuff. But we can't make sanctified gauges too. That's rude. You know what I mean? Like, people put a lot of work into getting those, and it's a shame to let such wonderful content. Like, that's the beauty of DDO, is that we never have to let go. You know what I mean? We can put things anywhere we want from 1 to 30, and everyone can get a chance to experience them. And
you should maybe call up the forum thread here too. Do you have the forum thread?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Twitch thing on the. It's really small.
Yeah, I know it is a little bit on the small side, but the forum thread maybe, because I'm going to actually. Unless you've got the whole thing memorized.
I mean, I might do that.
Yeah.
I could read it out loud, but my voice gradually gets higher and higher pitched as I read things.
No, I actually would. But here's why I wanted to bring that up. I figured let's get into some of the crunch here. If you would like to gear appropriately for your level and epic level content, there are a lot of options until level 28, and then level 29 has a smorgasbord of named loot to choose from. So, but that has made a position where, from the itemization and even to some extent what the rest of the design team, we're feeling a little pressed on room to sort of differentiate that loot and make it all compelling and all that sort of thing. So part of the reason we're doing this shift is to make some of that level 29 stuff and actually lower the minimum level of some of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the real. Let me actually pull up the post here. Yeah, so what we're going to do for a majority of the raids at cap, actually for all the raids at cap, is we're going to adjust their minimum levels. And so you'll find that Killing Time, Curse of Strahd, and Babylon Saga, which are our current highest difficulty raids, they're going to go down to level 28, and then from there down to 27 and 26 for the other, because there are like 8 other raids from there. Yeah, there's a chart. But yeah, we're just trying to split it up a little bit because, you know, the level cap has been at 30. We've tried to create compelling challenge, but players really want bigger and better every single time, and we just don't really have a lot of room to go anywhere. And so we have to go, you know, downwards. And one of the bonuses is that gearing in epics has not really necessarily been the most compelling. And there are lots of gaps in itemization, particularly around the mid-epics, you know, roughly like 21 to 25 or so. We've targeted that in the past. Like White Plume Mountain, we had 4 dungeons in the low epics range in order to try and shore up this, but we're trying to really take a solid stab at the upper half of epics to try and make it a little bit easier for you to have compelling gear choices no matter which epic level that you're at.
Legendary Green Steel is not changing.
Yeah,
Thunderforge Crafting is not changing. Legendary Tempest Spine and Legendary Hound of Zoriat will not have their tome drops adjusted.
Yeah.
Tier 1 contains at-cap non-legendary raids that do not use the legendary raid timer bypass. So the raids that are currently capped that do not use a legendary timer bypass are going to be in Tier 1, and they will have their named raid loot significantly boosted. Our intention is to bring these raid items closer, equal to the power level of gear from Against the Slave Lords at level 26, that being because they're in level 26 raids. These overhauled items will drop where the old items did at the same rate they did. If you have old versions, you can exchange them for new ones with Legendary Souls. We will be getting into Legendary Souls in just a minute. Consider it a pretty easy currency to be able to transition that stuff over. I know we speak to a hardcore crowd, so a lot of you are like, okay, now how do I get the new stuff, and what are you going to make me do? No, it's going to be a piece of cake, and I think you're going to enjoy it here. So, Tier 2 will contain the pre-Ravenloft legendary raids. You can expect the raid loot in this tier to be approximately midway between Slavers and Ravenloft, available at level 27. Items in this tier will be boosted to compete with each other, be better than the previous tier, and drop where the old items did. If you have old versions, you'll be able to exchange them. Tier 2 is plus 7 tomes and 6 to 7 upgrade tomes. Tier 3 is the Ravenloft raids, the Curse of Strahd and Old Baba's Hut, as well as Killing Time that just came out. It's almost like we thought maybe we might be doing something like this when we released Killing Time.
Spooky Dragon Raid 2? What?
Yes. These items are not changing in stats or effects, but will be available on one level earlier than they were before. So min level 29 items going to min level 28. Level 28 versions of these items will now drop where the old ones did at the same rate they did. If you have old stuff, you can trade it in. Tier 3 is a +8 ability tomes and 7 to 8 upgrade tomes, as well as the +1 racial action point tome. Anything you would like to say before we move on to Legendary Souls and other things?
One of the things we recognize that if you're currently an at-cap player and you're not reincarnating at all, like you're staying at level 30, we recognize that moving your level 28 regular or level 29 regular down to level 28 may not do anything, but it's a very small part of a very cohesive whole that we can better support in the future.
Quick look at chat, which I know is a dangerous thing to do. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I've kind of deliberately kept my focus away from chat so I can keep on track here. This is what I was hinting at last week. Cool. I have no idea what you were talking about. No more room. Time for an adventure pack. We will be doing more of that. Do you think I need a haircut?
Absolutely not.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. But one of the things that I did see in chat, will the revamped gear comply with the new 4 effect rule? That is something that was a pretty hot debate in the office, and we ultimately decided that there are not actually a lot of old raid loot that does not already comply with the 4 effect rule. We're not going to be conceptually shifting around the actual effects on any of the items. We're just going to be, whenever there was something that seems pretty outdated, we're going to replace it with our new scaling system. So yes, there are some items that will have grandfathered in 5th and 6th slot effects. Please don't take this as an indication that we're going to do this in the future. Take this as a sort of apology that this has that we had to make this compromise. So yes, certain items will have 5th and 6th slot effects, and hopefully you guys like them.
All right. Let's see. Will tomes be bound or unbound? I'm going to assume they're going to be bound.
Bound, yeah.
I mean, we're talking raid loot here.
Oh no, they're the ones that are in. The ones that drop out of Reigns are unbound, I thought. I have no idea. Whatever the Ravenloft ones did, whatever Ravenloft and Killing Time is doing, I'm doing that.
Okay.
There's no need. I'm not messing with anything like that.
Will that not, by decreasing the minimum level, decrease the main base damage of these items?
I made a really wonderful chart a while ago that shows our relationship between minimum level and base damage of weapons, and there's no linear representation. There's no actual correlation. I'm not going to be lowering any numbers. Like, I promise. I know you guys don't believe me, but the intention is to bring their numbers up and their minimum level down. If we end up in situations in which this would reduce the base damage and stuff like that, we're not going to do it.
Or we will probably have to think hard about it. I don't want to fully commit that we will never do it.
No,
but it's
never.
Definitely not the main intention of what we're going for here.
No, ideally, what we should do is actually put together like an actual system of minimum level to dice, but that's a lot of work, and it's just whatever.
No, we do have. I mean, you're being a little colloquial there. We actually do have some of that work.
My initial thoughts are, because we have an event item scaling that ends up at 5 Ws at level 28. I'm not sure where the new raid league is going to shake out, but it definitely, we're not going to be intentionally hitting these items down a peg in order to make them fit within this, which is part of the reason why we're grandfathering in 5th and 6th. That's a tongue twister. 5th and 6th slot effects. So.
Okay, so what the heck are legendary souls? I'm asking you.
Oh,
what are legendary souls?
They're a thing.
Speak now.
Speak my wizardry.
Yes. Hello.
So legendary souls. So just like greater tokens of the 12, and just like combinations of heroism, legendary souls are intended to be an at-cap raid resource that is earned through participating in a variety of raids. So if you complete any of the 11 raids that are listed in this thing, you're going to get a proportional amount comparable to the difficulty. Compared to because certain raids are actually easier than others depending on the tier. Like Deathworm takes like 45 minutes even if you know it. you'll get an amount of legendary souls. And right now, their main use is going to be upgrading old versions of raid loot to their new versions, but we have some spicy ideas in the future about how to really incentivize people to run raids, get as many as possible.
I think what we will find is people will be probably getting as many of them as possible.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
But the main point is you're getting this currency that you'll turn your old at-cap raid gear into new and improved versions, but we might find a good use for them in the future. Having some kind of raid token system essentially is a useful thing in the design toolbox.
Yeah, well, the obvious hook in would be like upgrading old raid loot the same way that Caught in the Web and Fall of Truth use combinations of heroism in order to upgrade their raid loot. We could institute a system in the future in which legendary souls interact with some future raids itemization plan, which would incentivize players to bring a variety of different alts to a variety of different raids in order to collect as much as possible.
All right, so if we are lowering the levels, this comes from Brian on Facebook, thank you for this. Are you increasing the DCs of dungeons or monsters to compensate? No, we are not really touching the content. The idea is to match this closer to the content, not the other way around.
Yeah. That's we kind of grouped them by relative difficulty. Like the monsters in older raids are easier than the monsters in newer raids. Like at cap, they've kind of always been tiered like this. This is we're just trying to make it there's a little bit more of a delineation between the 3 tiers of raids currently available.
Rastin says, hey, yo, does that basically mean that we're not seeing people doing raids? No, I mean, raiding has always been a core part of DDO. It's more that as new contents come out, some of the older raids have been perhaps lost a little bit of their shine, and we've been hearing from the community for about as long as we've been making this game, to perhaps find ways to make that older raid content relevant, and this is a way to do exactly that. So, at least that's the intention here.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why we're doing this, for consistency, ease of explaining things to players. Makes it a lot easier to plan stuff for the future, makes it a lot easier to understand internally. Like, as a player, you could look at it and go, it's a tier 1 raid, well, it's going to drop this tome, it's going to drop gear at this power level with this minimum level, and it all like, we're just smoothing out a whole bunch of the weird, rough spots that kind of crop up naturally when we add more content to the end of the game.
When are we doing this?
Today? About an hour.
No.
We're targeting update 41, but as always, things could change during development. The office could get hit by a meteor.
Oh my god, do you know how panic that would be if we really had the ability to like make something like this go into effect within an hour of announcing it that? That would be fantastic. People would be like, oh my god! Yeah, but no, this is coming with update 41.
No, treasure tables are very technically crunchy from behind the scenes, and we have no technology to mess with treasure tables and what drops where and which items. We have no way of doing that.
All right, so if you want feedback, what kind of feedback would you like to get?
Hopefully just tell me I did a great job. That'd be great. But on a more serious note, there's an official discussions post. So if you have anything to say about this, you have any comments or concerns, any questions, we'll try and answer as many of those as we can. Yeah, I really, constructive criticism is always welcome.
The bonus this weekend is a plus 30% challenge rewards boost. Night Revels goes through the
I already just
weekend.
farmed everything out. I should really check the calendar more often.
Well, now you get 30% more after the bonus this weekend, which is going to be a huge one for people who need that Night Revels stuff, of which I still do. Although I do want to thank you for the Vargwheel hat, working on my Dragonborn and giving him little...
Oh, that wasn't even me. Like, I hooked up the thing, but that was actually Eric, or that was Kintani. He did the whole... Sometimes he steps in and just does cosmetic stuff, and like out from under my nose is terrifying. It's
All
like
right,
a blur.
so I think we got enough on that. Anything... Oh, how will this affect Reaper mode, if anything? It really won't. This is a itemization thing more than a content
yeah, just like a variety of other things that drop at variable amounts. You can expect Reaper mode's currency drop amounts to match Elite's 1-to-1. So there's not going to be a Souls benefit for running on Reaper. It's for the challenge and for the fun, and for Reaper bonus on your raid gear.
No projected date of update 41 to announce at this time. Sorry.
I feel like
All
I
right,
forgot
I'm going
something.
to let people ask you like 3 questions before I let you go. The over nerf bug to the monk unarmed strike. Are we going to correct it? Do we have any intentions to work on monk unarmed strike further? I don't think so, right?
I think steel. There's a monks had an inherent 0.5 W that.
Oh yeah,
fell
right.
off.
And that's actually going to be fixed in our next patch.
Yeah, that's in our next patch.
Yeah.
It's in QA already.
Oh yeah. Okay. Hey, great news, Borgie.
Yeah,
yes. The answer is it's going to be fixed
Yeah.
and quite soon.
Yes, done.
So, yeah. How nice is that? Your only concern is the racial AP tome. That was the big draw. Seeing them drop now is concerning. It is going to be quite the rare item, I do believe.
I would imagine so.
Yes.
But as a philosophy standpoint, we don't really necessarily want to sell direct player power or that having people an option of earning it legitimately in game. That's a slippery slope that I don't really think we really want to fall down.
Yeah. Let's solve all problems related to loot and that right
Yeah.
now. Okay. But nonetheless, it is a way to earn it in game, which is one of the main points of it. So there you go. We have a request from AccuBray via Ailenwee, and I agree with. Next year's Reaper plate should maybe be purple.
I told you on the live stream, it was me and Rob were fighting about it in the parking lot.
Yeah,
and it's not fair. He's a better fighter than I am.
Well, we have me and Ailenwee saying purple.
I was saying purple, and Rob
Yeah.
said green. This is all Rob's fault. Again,
Okay.
I'm absolutely blaming him.
But that means maybe this next year
Yes.
we have a request for purple. You hear it now, folks.
I mean, purple's my favorite color. It's objectively the best color, some would say.
Final question. Will we ever reintroduce 2-slot random items?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I really augments. We've been having like light discussions about the technical requirements of an augment pass. We don't necessarily have anything concrete at this time, but it's
Anyway,
One
So
thing,
there
one
you
thing
have
I,
it,
one thing I
folks.
can say though is that I did figure out why quarterstaves don't drop with their metallic counterparts.
Okay.
So that actually might get fixed. So I can't fix that one thing, but I can fix the other thing.
Nice. All right, thank you so much, Lynnabel, for being here today. I'm going to let you get back to lunch. We're excited about this raid loot thread, though, so that's why you're on here today to talk a little bit and get some
Thanks for having me.
stuff. So thank you so much for being here,
Awesome.
and I'll talk to you again soon.